Okie dokie, I believe we are all the way live. Hello and welcome to my graveyard. I'm your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names and kicking candy ass, live in a living color here with you only on Grande's Graveyard. As here tonight on Grande's Graveyard, we bring back an oldie but a goodie, the old versus format. And tonight, it's not two horror movies taking each other on. It's not classics such as Dracula and three-way dances. No, tonight, it is a battle of vigilante films. It is a battle of two films based on novels by Brian Garfield. As tonight, we have 70s versus the 2000s, 70s versus the knots, if you will. It's Bacon versus Bronson. It's Winner versus Juan. It is Death Wish versus Death Sentence here tonight on Grande's Graveyard. I'm very excited here tonight on this episode of Grande's Graveyard as we will count down categories. Of course, I have 9 wonderful, voluptuous categories to choose from. And of course, the first 1 to 5 will be your ultimate winner of the evening. So, of course, we did do a poll on Instagram, and I wanted to take the temperature and see how close these movies are, because for me, they're very close. I think these are two fantastically done vigilante films with, of course, the hints of action in there, good acting, good direction, good writing. I mean, these movies both, I think, are very well-rounded and well done, and I wanted to pit the two against each other because it seems like one movie, of course, Death Wish, has the fans, has the legacy, made the money, made the sequels, it made the noise, whereas Death Sentence, in fact, I mean, died the day it came out. It seemed like no one gave a shit the day it came out. And to this day, almost 20 years later, 18 to be exact, it's still not talked about. It's still not remembered. So even so much to the fact that there is no Region 1 Blu-ray of Death Sentence. So I wanted to take the temperature of the room. And it started exactly how I thought. Death Wish was getting tons and tons of votes, and it was looking like, all right, this is going to be a blowout. Not enough people have seen Death Sentence or are a fan of it. And then out of nowhere, Death Sentence came out from the dead, if you will, if you want to stay punny with it. Death Sentence just started roaring back, and to the point where it only lost by a couple of votes. So apparently this is closer than I thought people would perceive it to be. So I'm very excited here tonight on Grande's Graveyard to decide a winner and pit these two against one another in battle, mano a mano. It's going to be a lot of fun. So everybody, I'm very happy to have you in the house. Let's see what y'all have to say in the chat. We have Miss C is here. If it will let me click on this comment. Ciao, Grande and Graveyardian friends. I'm ready for some revenge, Grande style only. Hell yeah. You ready to get your vigilantism on? I'm sure Miss C is getting herself ready. She's looking in the mirror, she's putting her war paint on, and she's just looking for somebody to mess with her in the seat because she's going to hit them with a little thunder and lightning, if you will. Miss C, welcome, my friend. Hope all's all well with you. We got John in the house, Haddonfield mascot. What's up, chatting Grande? I love Death Wish. Well, hey, I love Death Wish too. I honestly really love both these movies. I think this is a really close one, and I'm very excited to talk this out here tonight on Grande's Graveyard because I think this is something that deserves to be talked about a little bit more. We got Anthony Choba does pop cultures and openings. Hey, how are you, buddy? By the way, had a bad day at work. Well, I hope we can cheer you up here tonight on Grande's Graveyard, my friend. I do hope that whatever went down at work gets better, and hopefully tonight we can take your mind off things for an hour or so as we dive into this fun episode of Grande's Graveyard. Of course, I have dropped the schedule for August, so if you want to check the community tab, I may be flipping some dates because I have certain days where guests can't make it now. So I may flip those around. So we may be changing the schedule up a little bit for August, but we'll obviously let you know when we cross that bridge when we come to it. And so I'm very excited here tonight, Grande's Graveyard. I cheers you all with the greatest drink of all time, a little bit of Mountain Dew. Cheers, everybody. Let me know what you're drinking in the chat. Can't beat it. Can't beat the dew. And we're going to get this show right on the road here as we have our classic Grande's Graveyard versus format style here of Death Wish versus Death Sentence. And of course, the first topic that always kicks this show off. What's the first thing you see when it's a coming attraction of a movie? When you're at the cinema, you got your popcorn in one hand and your soda pop in the other. What else do you see first but the coming attraction poster, the one sheet poster, if you will? And of course, we have one sheet versus one sheet as our first category here, Grande's Graveyard versus Staple, as we have, of course, Death Wish and Death Sentence. I like both these posters. I think these are both really actually pretty nice. Of course, Death Wish is one I like, and I've seen this done more than one way. You have this way where it's like everything is kind of highlighted red, like almost like it's a developing picture. And then, of course, we have Charles Bronson in an action shot pointing at one of these gang members that is behind him on the stairwell. I love that. It feels very Central Park. It feels very New York City. And I love the red text. I think the red text is just a must when you're talking about vigilantism films. And then, of course, the Death Sentence one I think is quite nice too. You have Kevin Bacon holding the white back. It's the white and black attack, if you will, and then the deep red, that deep dark red on the bottom, Death Sentence, and then the little tagline, "Protect what's yours." And then, of course, the tagline on Death Wish is also fantastic as well. The vigilante, city style, judge, jury, and executioner. Yes, I like both these posters a lot. I will say I'm going to have to give the edge to the Death Wish poster here. The only issue I have with the Death Sentence one, it reminds me a little bit much of other posters. There's a little Sin City in there. It looks like there might be even a little bit of Max Payne in there. I don't know. I didn't do research to see who designed that poster, but it very much feels like the same look, feel, vibe, aura of like Max Payne, Sin City, right? Like the color scheme, the red, black, white, if you what have you, and the whole the art with Kevin Bacon just kind of looking down, but it looks like almost like flashbulb behind him or something. I don't know. It's a little bit too Max Payne, too Sin City for me. So for me, I go old school. I go Central Park, Charles Bronson pointing with a freaking gun. I mean, I think that's an awesome poster. One that I wouldn't mind having. And like I said, there is alternates to that one sheet. What do I mean by that? I believe it's blue and gold. And I know it sounds horrible on paper. You're like, huh? But it's almost like the Death Dream, one of the alternate Death Dream posters. If you've seen that, that's kind of how this poster looks. I've seen that alternate. It's not bad. It's really not bad. But to me, man, I got to go with the Death Wish poster here over Death Sentence, getting the first point of the night, because I just think that's fun. Now, granted, I read people say that it looks like too much like a still photo of the movie as opposed to a poster promoting it. I get that. I can hear you. Whatever you guys want to say. But I definitely think the Death Wish poster gets the edge here. So Death Wish gets on the board first. Death Wish goes up 1 zilch. Cheers, my dear Park, with some lemon lime liquid IV. Oh hell yeah! Hook it up, John. Hook it up. Hello, everyone. Ghostface Brett's in the house. What's going on, Brett? Hope all is well with you. What's up, Graveyard fam? Is that bacon I smell? Mernzies Movie Mansion is in the house, and everybody give a warm congratulations to the newly married man, Mernzies Movie Mansion. Yes, Merns just got married, and he went on his honeymoon, and he's chilling like a villain. So everybody give a big round of applause for Merns. Very happy for him. Congratulations. Oh yeah, total Max Payne vibes, or the heaviest SKA album about to drop. Yeah, it does. It does kind of look like an album cover, right? Like I could totally see like you just saying Public Enemy #1 or something on the bottom as opposed to Death Sentence. Like, it's not bad. I would totally, like, if you said to me, Grant, I got a one sheet of Death Sentence, I don't even know what it would go for. I would assume it's dirt cheap, but I wouldn't turn down owning it. Like, it's not a bad design. Like, it's like a B poster. Whereas Charles Bronson, Death Wish, I'd give like A-, B+ area. So I really like both these, but yeah, no, I had to give it to Death Wish for the first point here. As Ryan Hanley checks in. Ryan Hanley, congratulations, Mernsy. Welcome, Ryan Hanley. People saying congratulations. Thank you so much to Merns. But yeah, so Death Wish goes on the board first, and we'll also read our brief plot synopsises, and then we'll get into the big categories here on Grande's Graveyard. First, of course, from 1974. The Death Wish plot description. A New York architect becomes a one-man vigilante squad after his wife is murdered by street punks. In self-defense, the vengeful man kills muggers on the mean streets after dark. Yes, Death Wish. And then, of course, the brief plot synopsis for Death Sentence. Nicholas Hume is a mild-mannered executive with a perfect life until one gruesome night he witnesses the murder of his son. Transformed by grief, Hume eventually comes to the disturbing conclusion that no length is too great when protecting your own family. Yes, Death Wish versus Death Sentence on Grande's Graveyard. Place your bets, sir, because, of course, Death Wish is up 1 zilch as we get into a very fun topic here, a topic that I don't know if anyone's ever done. This is something that is sort of outside the box here, as we have Bronson versus Bacon. Yes, Bronson versus Bacon. Bronson, of course, and there's Kevin Bacon, as we'll have actors do battle here. Bronson versus Bacon. Now, before we get into them individually, this is a fun battle. I've always been such a fan of both of these actors. And I think they've had other performances other than the ones we're going to be discussing here tonight and having do battle with one another that I've quite liked. I've always liked Charles Bronson. I've always liked Kevin Bacon. So it's fun to kind of take two more established actors and have them do battle in not the same role, but very similar roles. Of course, they're both playing characters that were based off novels from Brian Garfield. Brian Garfield, of course, in 1972 writes the Death Wish novel. By 74, it's adapted to the movie by Michael Winner. And then, of course, in 1975, he writes the sequel to his original book called Death Sentence, which is, of course, based on the Kevin Bacon's movie, is based on that novel. And, of course, he's playing Nicholas Hume, the other character. So these are both characters that were based off the novels of Brian Garfield. And I mean, starting off with Charles Bronson, there were few talents like him in the history of the movies. Like people always seem to love and respect him. And I think there's a big reason and understanding for that. And I always say that Charles Bronson, that the greatness to him was his legitimacy. He was somebody that was legitimately seeming like a tough guy, legitimately badass, legitimately cool, for lack of a better word. There was something that was just so cool about Charles Bronson. And not only did he command the screen, he demanded screen presence from you if you're watching his films, whether it be a movie like this, whether it be a movie like, House of Wax, the original House of Wax from the 50s. He plays Igor. He plays the dumb, deaf, stupid Igor, who's the assistant to Vincent Price. And you're thinking, you got a 3D movie, we're in color, we're in the 1950s, we're using, of course, the legendary Vincent Price. This guy's going to get lost in the background if he's playing a deaf and dumb character, yet you can't take your eyes off him when he's on the screen. It's truly an unreal talent that Charles Bronson had. I admire him so much as a screen performer. And this is a guy that came from, like I said, a hard background, a guy that, again, was legitimate. And what do I mean by that? This is somebody that served in a World War II. I believe he served for a few years after he was working in the mines. And he, of course, served in World War II and then became an actor afterwards. And, slowly but surely built his way up through the 1950s to the 1960s. He would go on to play, villainous roles in The Magnificent Seven. He would go on to play, some fun leading roles in foreign films. He was a big deal in like Japan and Italy and all these cultures. He was a big international star, and he was a huge box office attraction. He was a big draw, and hence why they got him to do this part as Ray Kersey. Ray Kersey, of course, the character he plays in Death Wish. There were numerous names that were batted around for Ray Kersey. Initially, they wanted it to be Jack Lemmon, which never would have worked. They wanted Sidney Lumet to direct Jack Lemmon, which never, ever would have worked to me. Of course, they were thinking Odd Couple. Why not? Why they thought Odd Couple with this, I'll never know, but that was the initial plan. And they batted around tons of names. I mean, tons of names for this. And I made a list because it was too many to just remember off the top of your head. You had, let's see, you had Steve McQueen, Clint Eastwood, Burt Lancaster, George C. Scott, Frank Sinatra, Lee Marvin, and Elvis Presley were all considered before we got Charles Bronson as Kersey. I mean, that's wild that it took all of those names, all of these batting around ideas to get to Charles Bronson, who arguably this is the role he's most known for. And what's funny about that is he always felt he was extremely miscast in this part. He felt that they should have gotten a director with more emotion, with more vulnerability, because like I was saying before, the toughness and the legitimacy of somebody like Charles Bronson, it didn't work well for a character like this, right? The character that's lost everything. And, that's why a big reason he always said that he felt he was miscast. But I always thought that he did such a good job in this movie. We follow him as he works through this day in, day out job, and he's considered this liberal character who does feel bad for the common man, the poor man. He lives in a very nice apartment in New York City with his beautiful wife and kid. Of course, the wife played by Hope Lang. And we open the movie where he's on vacation. He's just having a great time in Cabo. He's fucking drinking with his wife. He's like, hey, let's take a stop right there at the foot of the shore. I want to take a look at you. He's just cool. He's loving to love life. He's got it all. And then one fateful afternoon, of course, these three street punks, led by Jeff Goldblum, which I always thought was funny, he leads this gang into Charles Bronson's home. They assault his wife and daughter. Of course, the wife is murdered, and Charles Bronson, I love his performance when he finds out. It's not an overt breaking down. It's more, he just shakes. He's shaken by this when he's told the news that his wife did not make it. He just shakes, kind of looks down of like, holy shit, man. But here's the thing with Bronson and why I think his performance is so well done here. Bronson, again, like he said in interviews how he was miscast, he's not going to show over vulnerability. There's something more tough on that exterior than that. And of course, what I mean by that is once he starts doing the killings at night, right, he starts to become a vigilante. He attacks people that go to mug him or rob him or stab him or what have you. At first, he goes home, he rushes home, and he throws up and he's sickened to his stomach. But after a while, it's like he starts to enjoy it. It's like it becomes a sense of ecstasy for him. It's a fix. It's a, oh my God, I'm enjoying doing this. I'm cleaning some crime and filth off the streets. I'm getting rid of these horrible people that are ruining society and ruining the city. I'm doing good. I'm this knight in shining armor. And I love the point where, we see how his daughter is deteriorating. She's become almost a vegetable and gets, sent away to a clinic. The husband character of his daughter, he comes in one day and he's just making a liver. He's making this liver. He goes, how do you like your liver? Hey, buddy. He's blasting some fun music, kind of getting into it. And he's like, what are you doing? Like you just lost your wife. Your daughter is catatonic. She's fucking lost her mind. And you're dancing around your kitchen. You want to know how I like my liver? What the fuck are you doing? And Bronson has this great line where he says, what am I supposed to do? Be sad forever? I love how that's done because I don't think there's any other actor that could have pulled that off. Any other actor, I think you go, horse shit. Like, that's not how you grieve. You don't just get over it and go, how do you like your liver? I like he's shaken, he's sickened physically, but then once he starts getting his fix, he starts to feel alive. He, I guess, oxymoronically starts to feel life by causing and dispatching death on the filth of New York City. It's a great performance, and he has a great charm to him. It's entertaining to see him kill these people. It is. And of course, by each sequel, right? Death Wish 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. It gets more and more glorified, romanticized, does the violence. And he went with that, right? I mean, by the part you get to 3 and 4, it's a Canon Pictures movie. And we're just basically watching Paul Kersey. I mean, he's just having a blast. I love, some of the sequels and how fun they are. But I do think in a way they kind of diminish the point of this first film. And of course, Brian Garfield's notion as a whole. Of, it's not supposed to be glorifying and romanticizing killing. It's supposed to be about, this is wrong. This is not the right thing to do. This is a stupid thing to do. But Bronson, again, he kills this performance. I think he does a great job. And there's a big reason why, people remember him in this movie, because it was a big deal. It was a big hit. And this was proof that you never know when you're going to peak in this country. Right? I mean, you look at him at this time, he was in his 50s. I believe he was 53 years old or 50, maybe even 52 years old when this movie finally gets released. And it was like his biggest hit in the States. And then all of a sudden you got a franchise on your hands. And who's to say? You never know when something's going to catch on. Look at Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson was a known name, was a successful actor. And then once Taken comes out, it's like he had a whole second career and slew after that. A little movie that could, on a budget of $25 million, grosses over $200 million. And now Liam Neeson's in everything. He's going to be in the Naked Gun reboot tomorrow because of Taken. That's a movie that came out almost 20 years ago. Yet it revitalized, rejuvenated, and was the shot in the arm in his career that he needed, and became an overnight action star. Let's put him in everything now. Let's put him in Unknown. Let's put him against Fighting the Wolves, whatever the fuck that movie was. The Gray, I think it was called. It was like, put him on a lunchbox. That's basically what happened with Charles Bronson here. And, To a Nicer Guy couldn't happen. I thought he was really good in this role. And on the flip side, You have Kevin Bacon, and Kevin Bacon, of course, like I said before, a guy that I've always liked and respected. I love him in so many roles. Some of the earlier stuff he had started in New York City, acting on off-Broadway shows and stuff like that, and then of course does smaller pictures, or smaller roles in bigger pictures like Animal House, and smaller roles in bigger pictures like Friday the 13th, and then it wasn't until Footloose where he really gets that lead role to shine, and his career was just off to the races from there. Tremors and so many great movies. I love Kevin Bacon. He's playing, of course, Nicholas Hume, which is this character that is, once again, he's a successful businessman. He's married to the voluptuous Kelly Preston, baby. May she rest in peace until I get there. Kelly Preston is one of the most beautiful women that God ever created, if God exists. I don't care if Allah created her. I don't fucking care who. Kelly Preston was, I don't know if it gets any more attractive than her. She was just sensational, beautiful. Married to Kelly Preston, you got me there. That guy's got a great life. But he, of course, has two young sons. They're both like mid to late teens. One son is like this jock athlete character, whereas the other one is more artsy, is into like paintings and drawings and things like that. And, he has this very happy life. We open where we watch these home videos of he and his family on the 4th of July, on Christmas morning. And we go through the years with this family and we see how happy that they are. He's showing his sons how to ride a bicycle. And Kevin Bacon, as the dad character part of it, has such a likability. And that's the thing with Kevin. He's such a likable guy. No matter, even if he's playing a villain, it's hard to dislike Kevin Bacon. He's just naturally likable. You can't help but just smile when he's on the screen. He has something about him that draws you in, like a moth to a flame, if you will. And he's really good here as Nicholas Hume, the office manager, if you will, the senior vice president of this company. And we watch as he is taking his son home from a hockey game, and the two of them are talking about maybe the son going away to Canada to play, and it may get serious. He may have a bright career and future ahead of him, until they stop at this gas station one night. And of course, this gang does this gang ritual initiation where they slice Kevin Bacon's son's throat in front of him. And, the kid, his jugular vein caught, and he's bleeding all over the place. Kevin Bacon rushes in to try to help him, doesn't get there in time. And then just the sorrow on Kevin Bacon's face when he's screaming, "Help me! Somebody help me!" He gets his son to the ER, and he's already like, his name is Brennan, please. He got cut really bad. I'm his father. He's my son. And he's distraught. Of course, the doctors come back out. They tell him he's not going to make it. And we see at first Kelly Preston break down, which I thought was a very beautiful scene. And then, of course, we watch as Kevin Bacon's whole entire world has been turned upside down. Here it was on the top. I had everything. I had this beautiful, successful job, a beautiful, loving wife, two beautiful kids, both with bright futures ahead of them. And bam, on the flip of a dime, one of those two sons have been taken away from me. His whole life, his whole future, his whole manhood has been taken away within a glimpse of my blinking. And now, of course, he has to come to the decision, what do I do? And of course, at first it's send this guy to jail. I want him to spend the rest of his life in jail. They don't have the biggest evidence, so the guy's only going to get a couple of years. And Kevin Bacon says, I don't know who it was. It was dark. And he decides to take matters into his own hands. And it's a lot different from Paul Kersey. It's a lot different from the Bronson character, where after a while he's enjoying the killing. It's like he's getting a fun kick out of it. With Bacon, it's more like, I shouldn't be doing this. And he knows better, but he feels he has to do it anyway. There's the great scene where he kills the guy that's killed his son. He encounters him, and they have this really great lighting, this red room lighting, as he encounters this guy with a dagger, and he's trying to kill him. And then all of a sudden there's a struggle, and then he just stops, and he sees that he stabbed the guy with the dagger. And it's almost like it was an accident. And he goes home in the shower, and that's where we see Kevin Bacon just break down and cry as the shower's going on him. And Kelly Preston runs in the room and grabs him, and he's just saying, I'm so sorry. I couldn't save my son. I'm so sorry. I just killed somebody. But obviously he doesn't say that. I think his acting is tremendous there. I love the emotion that he makes you feel in this. And then, of course, you're off to the races from there. You're watching as this one kill in revenge back for the death of his son starts to cost him everything, and these goons come after Kevin Bacon. It's great. It's a very emotional performance. I really think there's so much to it. Like with Bronson, it's all about the presence. It's all about the charm. It's all about the this at the end of the movie, the kind of wink to the camera as we leave the screen. With Bacon, we're watching a broken man. A man, like I said, that has everything taken away from him within a matter of seconds. And a man that has to decide, what do I do to protect what's mine? Is it right? No. But is it what I have to do? Is it what I feel I have to do? Absolutely. And that's what he goes out and does. And I think that his emotional distress and his emotional range in this picture is truly one of the all-time great Kevin Bacon performances. I think he's so good here. I really, really like him as we watch this man start at the top, crumble before our eyes. I just think it's so well done. I really, really enjoy this. Really, really good performance. It's close. It's very close. But you know what? I'm sorry. As much as I love Bronson and Death Wish, and I think that he was the best choice, even though I know he's disagreed himself, I like Bacon's performance a little bit better. I think there's a lot more range that he had to go through. But again, this is much more a preference, right? Because they're not really playing the exact same character. They're two different guys. One is, very hard. The other is a little bit softer. I like the softer character just because I think there was a lot more emotional range that he had to have. He had to show as the happy-go-lucky dad, the happy-go-lucky businessman, and crumble and deteriorate as the picture goes on into this man who knows there's no turning back anymore. I have to finish what I started, baby. And that's why I go Kevin Bacon over Bronson. I know that's going to be sacrilegious to some. People are going to hate me. I'm sorry, but I do think Bacon's performance called for more, even though I do love both of these actors and I do love both performances. So definitely a tough one for me to say, but I had to go with Bacon here over Bronson. Let's see what you guys have to say. Missy says, congrats, Mernsy. Hope married wife is treating you both well. Absolutely. I hope so too. Never seen or heard of Death Sentence before. See, that's the beauty of this. I hope you go out and watch Death Sentence now. I think it's totally a movie that deserves some more love. Of course, we'll talk about the director of the movie next, but I think Death Sentence is a really good film. I think it's a movie that more people should see, and I highly do recommend it. Hola Grande, Texas, THC 1965 is in the hazy. What's going on, my friend? He's congratulating Mernsy as well. We got Bradley in the house. The soulless trench coat is here. Hey, what's up? What's going on, Bradley? Hope all is well with you, man. Team Death Sentence. All right, see, I told you. Wouldn't be no blowout tonight. I had a feeling there was going to be some Death Sentence. It feels like Death Sentence is the underdog. There's no doubt about that. But it definitely has its fans, because when I did that poll, I was tremendously surprised. Oh, Bronson all the way, Death Wish 4 rules. I love Death Wish 4. In fact, Death Wish 3 is probably the most fun, but Death Wish 4 is hysterical too. I like most of the sequels. Death Wish 5 is horrible. And the Death Wish remake with Bruce Willis, I can't stand. But Death Wish 1 through 4, I get enjoyment out of any of those movies. Even though I know it gets more and more ridiculous as the sequels go on, they are charming in a way, especially the third and fourth one. They're just, by that point, it's popcorn. Yo, Joe Mama's in the house. What's going on, Joe Mama? Hope all is well with you. Death Sentence is underrated. Death Wish is great, but Death Sentence deserves more love. I 100% agree that Death Sentence deserves more love. It just didn't, and we'll get into why it doesn't get the love and why it didn't gross much money and why it's lost and forgotten in the shuffle. We'll get to all that. Haven't seen Death Sentence. They're both great. Bronson wins for the stash. All right, yeah, you got the stash. Granted, Bacon's had the stash in some movies, but not this movie. I mean, I think both of them great performances here. You can absolutely go I don't think there's a wrong answer here. They're both great performances. I just guess that for me, Bacon had to do much more with his emotions, whereas Bronson was literally suggesting other actors. He was like, I don't think this is for me. So he started suggesting all these other actors and things like that. And of course, they were like, no, we want you, man, your box office. And they weren't kidding. I mean, this is a movie that grossed $30 million worldwide when it came out against a budget of $3 million. A movie that was rented to death, no pun intended. A movie that spawned 4 sequels. A movie that literally, they just kept milking it till it was dry. Cannon got their fucking fingers in on there. So that it made sense. It was totally, they made the right decision here for sure, whether Bronson agreed or not. And it's a role that most remember Bronson. My first exposure to Charles Bronson was absolutely the Death Wish movies. There's no doubt. I like how, too, Bacon, it doesn't seem easy, and he cuts his finger off using the shit. Yet he I love his dilemma. I think it's a great character study of someone who has everything, and then of course once he has to start doing these things he's not comfortable doing, you see he's uncomfortable with it. You could physically see it in his eyes. I shouldn't fucking do this. Like, this is wrong. But you started a war with the wrong dog, and you've got to finish what you've started if you started. So I don't know. I think it's really well done. Brian Sanchez, that's a first-time name in Grande's Graveyard. What's up, everybody, from Albuquerque? Hey, shout out. Hey, man, Alba, cheers to Albuquerque. I don't know how many Albuquerque and Grande's Graveyard fans that we have, but apparently we have one. Brian Sanchez, welcome. I love movies, for my opinion. I love Death Wish and Death Sentence. Hey, I'm giving you 2 thumbs up too, man. I like both these movies quite a bit. It's very close battle here tonight, so I'm happy to have you in the house. Thank you so much for joining all the way from Albuquerque. I can rent Death Sentence for $4. I'll rent it this weekend. I highly recommend it. It's a shame that there's not a Blu-ray of it out, because I would say buy the Blu-ray. There is no fucking Blu-ray. The movie did so bad at the box office and was reviewed so poorly by critics that it did not even fucking get a Blu-ray. So go figure. Whereas Death Wish has got a 4K recently from, I want to say Kino might have done the 4K. I don't have the 4K. We got JP in the house. Grande's Graveyard. Oh, yeah. Welcome, JP. Hope all is well with you. Thank you so much for stopping by tonight. As, of course, we are through our first 2 categories, and we are deadlocked even at 1-1, of course, here on Death Wish versus Death Sentence, the versus episode. And, of course, we have our next category here. It is director versus director. It is winner versus Wan. Yes, Winner versus Wan. Of course, Michael Winner, James Wan, 2 directors here. And of course, I did also tag their cinematographers respectively. Of course, director of photography, Arthur J. Ornitz for Winner. And of course, director of photography, John R. Leonetti for Wan. Now, we could start with Michael Winner. Now, I'll tell you this right off the bat. If we were just talking which one of these people is the better person, which one of these people has the soul of the 2 of these, it's James Wan, and we're moving on with our lives, baby. That's what we're doing. But, we're going to be fair. We're going to be impartial. We'll judge the art as opposed to the artiste, if you will, tonight on Grande's Graveyard. Michael Winner, of course, for those who don't know, was not the greatest guy, was not very well liked, was said to be a heinous, horrible human being for numerous things that he did. We can get into some of it. I mean, I suppose some people probably don't know and would like to know. Of course, I'll just give a certain few examples, and then we can move on to his actual direction and work on the film. This was a guy that, of course, was accused several times of course, being overly flirtatious and sexual harassment on pictures that he had worked on. He, of course, was a guy that was known for not being so safe with his actors and or stuntmen. And what do I mean by that? There's, of course, Death Wish 3. As much as we love Death Wish 3, there's a really sad tragedy story that comes from that film where, of course, Michael Winner was working with the stuntman, and he told him, hey, I want you to do this scene. I want you to be as visible as possible. There was a big explosion supposed to happen, and the stuntman was supposed to take like an over the top like somersault back bump onto flat on his back onto like a piece of 2x4. The actor, of course, wasn't comfortable being as close to the explosives as he was, and there was a huge accident where this stuntman broke his back, I think he broke his leg, he broke his arm, collarbone, he broke several bones, the back, of course, being the big one. And the guy was never the same. The guy lost his career. The guy basically was never right again. He became like a bionic man. He was all fucked up from it. And of course, he always blamed Michael Winner because the biggest job a director has to do, aside from making a successful film, aside from being courteous and nice to their actors, actresses, cast, crew, grips, everybody from the key grip all the way to, the producer. You have to be a decent human being. You have to make sure that everyone's comfortable on set. But I think the number one most important thing is everyone's safety. You have to fucking make sure that nobody gets hurt on your picture. And unfortunately, this was a guy that harassed women on his sets, and this was a guy that did not take care of his stunt workers on his sets. So fuck him. He's passed away, so rest in peace, but honestly was not a great guy. However, like we said, we're going to not judge the artiste, if you will, with this category. We'll be unbiased, and we will discuss his art, of course, the direction for Death Wish. Now, this was somebody that had made other gritty style films. Of course, Scorpio comes out right around the time of Death Wish, which is another movie that has that similar vein of the exploitative factor, that feel, that grime and grit. I think that was a good choice. Michael Winner was a much better choice than a Sidney Lumet. Then I think at points they wanted, who the fuck else was it? They wanted somebody else at a point, maybe even Peter Medeac, who went on to do the Changeling moves like that. That never would have worked. He was the right guy to get for sure. And I like that in an era where the 1970s were really changing films and we were moving from the 1960s and then, of course, from Peace and Love into this gritty, grimy 1970s look, right? Where we had guys like Craven coming up around the pike and Last House on the Left. We had guys like Bob Clark, guys that were really well done and up and coming that knew what they were doing and knew how to add enough grit to their product. Whereas what I like that Winter does is it's a gritty film. It's a forbidden film. It has the exploitative elements, but it's also quite gorgeously shot. I think this movie, and granted, I did watch the 4K transfer. It looks incredible. This is a gorgeous looking film. And I like that it's not a situation of let's do it Taxi Driver style, which was, of course, a couple years after this. They did it more so. They shot it like it was a regular big budget Hollywood picture. And then, of course, once you get to the exploitative elements of it, right, these muggings, these shootings, these stabbings, these women being assaulted in the scene with the street thugs, it's all so wonderfully, beautifully shot that you're like, wait a minute, did someone make a mistake? Like, why does all this look so good and appealing to the eye? It's gorgeous. I love the use of color in the film. I love some of the cinematography on the beach, some of the cinematography when you get to Arizona, the cinematography of New York City, how cold they make it feel, how isolated they can make it feel at times. His direction is spot on. He captured New York City, but not the ultimate gritty, grimy New York City that would go on to be captured by guys like Scorsese and guys like that really gave you the scummy side of things. He gave you the exploitative element, but with a nice, beautiful, clear scope. And I like that. I think that really works for Death Wish in particular. I love the look of this movie. The director of photography does a great job too. I really like Arthur Day Ornitz's work. And then, of course, on the other side of that discussion, we have our favorite Australian Asian American filmmaker, James Wan. James Wan, who, I mean, is one of, to me, the most inspirational filmmakers of our time. I mean, I will gladly say, I don't think I ever get the ambition to go make a short film that I did, whether it turned out good or bad, without a James Wan. And I always loved his story, and I always loved his humility and how humble he was. Of course, the guy that came from nothing, guy that was a huge Dario Argento fan, like the rest of us, and who, made this $1 million picture that could, right? $1 million picture that was supposed to go direct to the Sci-Fi Channel and Saw, and ended up grossing $100 million at the weekend box office because Lionsgate gave it the wide release. And overnight was a success. A guy that wasn't afraid to do some interesting things with the editing and some crazy things with the camera and some wacky shots and filters and things like that. A guy that went for it, right? A guy that was a fan that really went for it. Wasn't given or afforded the most money in the world, but always kind of went with his gut. And I liked that he always had a great variety to him. He never makes the same picture twice. And I know people would argue that he does, but I respectfully disagree. Like Saw, we have this torture movie. We have this movie discussing the morality of life and death and do we value our lives? Then the follow-up 2 years later, it's Dead Silence. We have this fun puppet movie and Raven's Fair and Don't Say Her Name Above a Whisper and Beware the Stare, Mary Shaw. Love that. And then, of course, here, his third picture, the vigilante picture, the vigilante film of Death Sentence, where he, of course, started working with a major studio, was given a big budget. I believe this movie had a $20 million budget. So for him, going from $1 million to Saw, times that by 20, and you have the money he had to make Death Sentence. And he's working with big actors. You're working with Kevin Bacon, Kelly Preston, John Goodman, Garrett Hudlin, some good professional actors that can really help your film and legitimatize you. I love James Wan's stuff. He's just really, really well rounded as a filmmaker to me. And with this particular movie, I love a lot of the things that he does with the camera as well. And of course, he's working with a legend like John R. Leonetti, who not a great filmmaker, Mortal Kombat, Annihilation, Annabelle, but a legendary cinematographer, John R. Leonetti. You look around Hollywood, you look at some of the most successful films ever made. John R. Leonetti, it's odds are he might have been the cinematographer for them. I mean, he worked on a lot of pictures, a lot of them, and he's a legend for sure. But working with Juan, I always love what Juan had him do because I always thought he kind of got John R. Leonetti outside the box. Here's an exploitation picture, right? A movie where we're modeling me versus you. That's it. There's not much on paper in, I guess, the on the page, if you will, that you're going to be able to do to make this visually exciting. And yet they do it. There's a great scene where we're watching this car. It's driving along and we have the camera. It starts from underneath the car and we go over the top. It like the whole scene looks like it's flipped upside around. You're amazed. It's like, how the hell did they do that? That is incredible filmmaking. I love that. Again, all the colors, the primary theme of red, the color red in this entire picture, it's totally a nod to Dario. It's totally a nod to movies like Profondo Rosso and movies that use red as this primary vibrant color to tell its story and to have our characters interact in the most crucial and critical scenes. They're there. That color red is all throughout the movie. And of course, the red symbolizes the blood and the red symbolizes the rage within Kevin Bacon. Love the use of color, of course, from Juan as well. And I don't know, I think he did a really good job with making this movie look stylish. It's a far more stylish picture. It's trying to look gritty. It's trying to look run down. It's trying to look very 1970s, even though we're in the mid to late 2000s. I like the look of the picture. It's a little bit scratchy and grainy. And I have the DVD, of course, the only physical media release in the region 1A, whatever you want to call it, it ever got. The DVD looks rough. It's not a good looking DVD. You want to watch this movie in HD because then you can get a real full scope of what he was going for from the visual standpoint. I think the movie looks good. It has a very distinct look. It doesn't have the green Lionsgate saw filter on it, which I don't like. This instead has just this 1970s, looks like a throwback filter on it. It really helps create and set up this world. I think both directors do a great job here. I do. And then, coming full circle with, not just the technical aspect of things, but the aspect of, as I could move up Mr. Juan here, so we can maybe get them in the same frame here. It's not just the technical aspects of both these filmmakers, because I do think they're both good. And it's not just working with actors, which granted, Winter was not known to be a well-liked guy, but him and Bronson were good friends in real life, and they would work with each other several times again. I believe Bronson insisted he direct Death Wish 2 and 3 respectively. So Winter comes back to work with Bronson. They were buddies. But that's not to say that Juan didn't get along with his actors good either. I mean, they both definitely got along. I think, the whole idea of the themes of these movies, which we're going to get into when we talk about writer versus writer. I think it comes down to a big part of it. Which one of these delivered what the story is trying to say better? And for me, that's James Wan. I think James Wan really got the point of Garfield's novel as opposed to Michael Winter. And now I know, again, Winter's defended it. Bronson's defended it. Oh, we totally stuck to the theme of the novel. As far as the first movie goes, yes, to a degree. But as those sequels went on, and he directed some of those sequels, and Bronson starred in all those sequels, it's just not. It gets lost in the shuffle. It's almost like they forgot why they were making Death Wish movies and instead said, "Fuck it, let's make some fun, entertaining movies." And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what's fun. And I think I can see why someone would like the sequels better because they're completely different from a tonal standpoint. But as far as the whole thing, all the way around, I got to go James Gunn, man. James Wan. I got to go James Wan here because James Wan is just an absolute legend to me. So I go James Wan for the direction here. Really like his style. Really like what he did with this movie. And Death Sentence takes a 2-1 lead. As we move on into our next category here, of course, writer versus writer. Yes, writer versus writer. Of course, you may know that guy on the left. You may not. That is, of course, Brian A. Garfield. And now, of course, he wrote both novels, of course, Death Wish in 1972 and Death Sentence in 1975. Of course, both movies based on novels that he went on to write. And of course, next to him, we have Wendell Mays, who wrote the screenplay for Death Wish. And then below him, we have Ian Mackenzie Jeffers, who wrote the screenplay for Death Sentence. Now, I think both these movies are well written. But this is our first slam dunk of the night, in my opinion. And I don't know how terribly long we'll stay on this particular topic, but we'll start with the man of the evening. We'll start with Brian Garfield, right? Brian A. Garfield. He wrote both novels. He did not like Death Wish. He felt Death Wish was over gratuitous. He felt that it missed the point. And he said as the sequels went on and on, they got worse and worse. He was not a fan. However, he praised Death Sentence. He said while the third act was ridiculous, ludicrous, violent, and all that shit, he did not appreciate that part of it. He said, however, they got the theme of how vigilantism is stupid. That's the whole goal of what his novels were trying to say. And a big reason as to why he wrote the sequel Death Sentence, to the novel Death Wish. The big reason was he felt that the movie missed it. He felt that Death Wish missed it. So he said, fuck it, let me write this sequel and kind of prove my point a little bit more. Let me be a little bit more fucking clear. And that's what he did. So for me, I mean, you're asking the writer, he's going Death Sentence all day and night. And I'd have to agree with that. I would have to lean towards Death Sentence here for the writing as well. And I'll tell you why. Death Wish is very focused on what it has to say about politics and what it has to say about crime rate and society at that time. And I understand that that was a very hot topic in the 1970s. I may not have been around, but I'm sure there are probably people that may have been around that'll tell me, oh, well, you just don't get it. You weren't fucking there. And you are absolutely right. I wasn't fucking there. I wasn't even a thought in 1973. Fuck. I don't know where the fuck I was. I was a fucking shining tear in my dad's eye. I don't know. But I do understand the significance of talking about the crime rate and talking about society, especially in New York City at that time, because that's a big reason and direction as to where cinema was going at that time. You look at some of the biggest movies of the 1970s, man. A lot of them take place in New York City. Look at Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3. Look at Taxi Driver. Look at movies like that absolutely, I mean, they define New York City cinema. Define it. And Death Wish is one of those movies. There's no doubt about it. I don't think it's as good as a fucking Taxi Driver, but it's a damn good movie in and of itself. I think they were so focused on talking about the social commentary. We're so focused on discussing crime rate because it's mentioned again and again and again that I feel like it gets a little bit lost in itself. Whereas there are funny dialogue lines. I do think it's a well-written movie, don't get me wrong. There's the funny scene where the woman on the news going, I defended myself with this here nightstick, and I dare anybody to come at me again. And Bronson's watching on TV eating the Ritz crackers. That makes me laugh every time without fail. I love that lady. Like that. There goes my hero. Watch her as she goes. I love that lady. That lady is fucking hysterical. And she's like, come at me, you fucking bastards. Like, that's my hero. I love that lady. I love that. But again, while there are good lines, there are good dialogue, I just feel like the movie it's almost beating you over the head with its message. And the whole idea of, how things start to go where, the more and more Bronson kills, the more and more crime is letting up. And the police know Bronson's doing it, but they want to keep it anonymous because they want the crime rates to stay down. And there's the whole commentary on, is that right? Is that wrong? Do you take this man into justice and give him, of course, the proper sentence he has for killing people? Or do you let it be anonymous and, of course, keep the crime levels down and just deport him to Chicago? It's a smart point. It's well written and it's very of the 1970s. So I again could see someone saying, Grande, you just are a fucking asshole and you're wrong. I can hear that for sure. But not the asshole part, but I can see you telling me I'm wrong and you don't think so. That's totally fine. I just think it's a little bit up itself. Whereas Ian Mackenzie Jeffers' screenplay, again, I felt, even though we both are stating a point, we both are making a statement, I think his script is a little bit better because it's much more about emotion. It's much more driven about family, right? Of course, we have Kevin Bacon's family, but not only his family, we also have Garrett Hunley and his family, the gang, if you will, the gang of all these thugs. Of course, some of them played by one was played by Leigh Whannell. One is played by Eddie. What is his damn name? I got to get his name here. Edie. What the hell is his name? Of course, I can't fucking think of it. The guy, he just played Mr. Terrific in the new Superman movie. I can't think of his damn name. I'll get it. I have it at the bottom here when we do. You know what? We could cheat. We could. The next cat. No, actually, we're not going to cheat because I don't want to give up the categories. So whatever the hell. The people in his gang, if you will, this is his family. And we learn that the person that killed Kevin Bacon's son was Garrett Hedlund's brother. And there's a great scene where the two of them are on the phone, and he's like, Kevin Bacon's like, you don't fucking come near my family. If you come near my family, I'm going to gut you like I gutted your fucking friend. And without missing a beat, Garrett Hedlund goes, he wasn't my friend. He was my brother. You just signed your death sentence, motherfucker. I love that. I think that scene is so intense between the two of them over the phone, and Bacon just starts freaking out. He's going to kill my family. He's going to kill my goddamn family. Love that. That's so good. I love how that's done. And then, of course, again, the point of with Aisha Taylor's character when she confronts Kevin Bacon, she's saying, hey, did you pick a fight with the wrong dog? Like, did you get yourself and your family into something that there's no turning back from now? What did you do to make them this pissed off at you to try to come and kill all of you? Like, you got to come clean to me, basically, is what she's saying. I like that stuff better. I think it's much more emotional, much more personal, as opposed to, oh, we're going to talk about the crime rates. We're going to talk about New York City and how it's trashy and how it's turned and all this. It's like, I guess there's two different sides to this coin. But for me, I guess I'm just much more of a person guy, much more emotions guy. So for me, the writing goes hands down to Ian Mackenzie Jeffers and Death Sentence. So crazy, I know, but Death Sentence jumps out to a 3-1 lead. Holy shit. James Abernathy is here. Hi, everyone. A little late, but I'm here. Nice to be with you live. Always nice to have you, my friend. Hope all is well with you. As Death Sentence takes a shocking 3-1 lead. Can Death Wish bounce back? We will find out in the next category as we have exploitation versus exploitation. Yes, exploitation. Now, of course, when we do horror movie versions of this, we talk horror versus horror, right? Shouldn't that be the biggest category when you're discussing whatever film you're discussing, right? If you're talking comedies versus comedies, shouldn't the comedy versus comedy, shouldn't that be one of, if not the biggest element, the biggest round, if you will? And of course, instead of horror versus horror, you have exploitation versus exploitation. How exploitative are these pictures in comparison to one another? Which one does the exploitative element better than the other? And for me, when you look at Death Wish, it's particularly one scene towards the beginning of the movie, which I've spotlighted here, as of course, that's not Dr. Ian Malcolm. Don't adjust your screen. That is, of course, Jeff Goldblum, who went on to be in so many fun movies and have a lot of fun performances. Always loved him in The Fly and whatnot. He is the lead of these three guys that are fucking around in a grocery store, and they see Hope Lang and the daughter, and they're fucking putting their groceries to the side, and they want them delivered because they're rich or whatever the fuck. They give away their address on the thing, and they go in, they break in. And I think when you're thinking about exploitation movies and truly disturbing scenes, a lot of movies come to mind. I Spit in Your Grave, Fight for Your Life, Last House on the Left. A lot of movies like that come to mind. This is one on a bigger scale that did something like this, and I think it's incredible how well it works with showing so little. Now, again, those other movies I just mentioned, they show it all. I Spit in Your Grave does not turn the camera away. Last House does not turn the camera away. Fight for Your Life certainly does not turn the camera away. This we sort of do. We have the wife and daughter, they're in the house, they're talking about whatever, and these guys break in, and of course he says, give me all your money, and she's like, my purse is in the kitchen, just please don't hurt me, just please don't hurt us. These bitches have $7 and get him on the floor, get him to do it, and she's like, do what? And he's like, you fucking know what? And of course, they start bitch slapping them, hitting them. We see one of the daughter, it looks like she's being forced to give Jeff Goldblum oral sex. It's all done so quick, though. It's all done so tastefully that once you leave the screen, I truly feel just as disturbed as I did with those earlier pictures I was mentioning, Your Last House, Fight for Your Lives, etc. It's really, really disturbing. Like I have a hard time watching that scene, and nothing much happens. There's not a lot of blood. There's not a lot of violence. There's not a ton of being beaten up, and a lot of it's off screen. If so, we see Jeff Goldblum like pounding on the floor, but we don't see him actually hitting her 100% of the time. A little bit, but not a ton. So I thought that scene was so effective in how it used its exploitative element. It was like, okay, we'll show you just enough that you'll get the idea of horror in your head of what happened. And I think it was so well done and delivered here. I love the exploitative element. And then, of course, as the movie goes on with Bronson in the subways, how cold it feels, how raw and organic it feels, where he's walking around and give me your money, man. And he's like, huh? What did you say? Boom. Loved that. I thought that was great. The guys in the subway, and I cut him. I cut the motherfucker. I love that. That stuff is really good. The exploitative element in Death Wish is really, really well done, I think, from Winter. And then, of course, we have Death Sentence, and Death Sentence is exploitation, where we have the scene in the gas station, which I do think is very effective too. We have the son, he's going in for a Slurpee, where Kevin Bacon's on the phone with Kelly Preston. He's leaving her a message and he's saying, oh, our son is off to great things. So proud of him, X, Y, and Z. And of course, his son gets his throat slit. We don't really see it. We just kind of see the aftermath of him grabbing at his throat and stuff like that. But once you get to the violence and the third act of all a revenge, if you will, that's some of the most impressive stuff you'll see. I love the whole sequence where Bacon kind of storms the complex. That's a lot of fun with the shotgun. And there's the scene where Leigh Whannell's sitting in the car and he drives so fast that he cuts through the car and kills Leigh Whannell. There's the one guy that's on the other side of the wall. He sees his shadow, shoots through the wall, and then Juan does the cool thing with the camera to go through the bullet hole. I loved that. There was the best sequence in the movie is the whole thing with Kevin Bacon is in this like parking garage and the hoodlums are after him and he's going after, each level and he's setting the car alarms off to try to distract them to go, okay, maybe he's over here where he's really running to the next level, setting a car alarm off. He's trying to set them off the trail. We watch as the cinematographer stays with Bacon the whole time. It's like a 4-minute scene that never cuts as we're going through this entire scene. It's really tremendously done. I love how Juan directs that. And I thought the whole exploitative element of it was really fun too, where these guys trying to attack him and then this really fun fight to the car and the car flies off the park. I love that. That stuff was all really, really well done. Really well made. However, for impact, for emotion, for the unsettling feeling that you feel, I'm sorry, but Death Wish has got to get this point. It's so much more raw in that department. Like when you get that death scene, it's truly impactful, and even more so than the stuff in Death Sentence when they finally do attack Kelly Preston and his other son, right in front of him. That stuff still carries weight, but it's just not as disturbing as the stuff with Jeff Goldblum in that. And I think the whole thing too, to add one last point, to how this exploitation is better in this movie as opposed to Death Sentence. I think a big thing is that they get away with it. Like he never catches the guys that killed his wife. They never catch the guys that ruined his daughter's life. And of course, by Death Wish 2, spoiler alert, she takes her own life. The daughter character. I mean, they never catch them. You never get a line, oh, they caught Jeff Goldblum and company or whatever. They never brought Jeff Goldblum back in one of the later. It would have been very funny to see Jeff Goldblum come back with Death Wish 4, The Crackdown, and had him be like some kind of cocaine drug lord. That would have been very fucking funny if they had done that, but they never did. And it's okay that they never did, but I mean, to me, the impact of that scene in the first movie, it's arguably the best scene in the whole movie. It's very, very disturbing to this day, over 50 years later. So the point is going to go to Death Wish there. I think Death Wish is definitely the better exploitative movie when we're talking about that element of the picture. So coming up next, we're going to have some smaller categories, if you will. So I'm going to give the screen a little bit of a share here. And we have the smaller categories that we can go through a little bit quicker than these, as of course will lead up to ending versus ending. Supporting cast versus supporting cast. Of course, Death Wish, Hope Lang and Vincent Gardenia, William Redfield, Stephen Keats, Jeff Goldblum. A lot of really cool actors there. I really like all of them. Of course, Hope Lang playing the wife character, and they initially wanted, I think, his real-life wife to play it, who was, what was her damn name? I always forget his wife's name at this time. I think it was Ireland. Something Ireland was her name. Oh, God, I'm going to have to look it up. I have the sheet on this one, guys. I forget her damn name. It's something Ireland, I think. Right, Jill Ireland was her name. They wanted her, and then he was like, no, I'm not going to have my wife fucking, beaten on screen and all that stuff for real. And they were like, well, we're trying to get somebody that looks like Hope Lang. And he's like, why don't you just get fucking Hope Lang? I know her. And they were like, okay. So they used him to get Hope Lang, and that's why she's in the movie, which I thought was pretty funny. Vincent Gardenia plays this cop character who is knowing of what's going on after a while, but he doesn't want to give him away. So there's the whole thing. I don't know. I love his performance too. It's not a huge major character. He's kind of just on the trail. He knows what's going on, but he's just kind of there. William Redfield is in there in a brief role. Of course, you might remember him from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He's the guy that he's there on his own will. He can leave whenever the hell he wants. I love his character in that. He's great. I'm talking about civilization. I'm talking about form. I'm talking about the humans. I love this fucking spiel in that. Stephen Keats, another great character. And then, of course, Jeff Goldblum, who's the lead. It's always so funny to kind of see him in there. You just go, wait a minute, what? Jeff Goldblum is the fucking lead, like, greaser heel? That's fucking funny. Like, I don't know. Jeff Goldblum is off the wall in Death Wish. Yeah, he really is. It's a weird, like, like, what the fuck? I remember the first time I saw it, I was kind of like, wow, that is such a weird role for him. I think it was one of, if not his first roles. So go figure. From here to Hollywood, right? Cool one. And then, of course, Death Sentence, fewer names here. Like, we have Kelly Preston, who does a good job in the movie. She's a good actress, beautiful lady. Garrett Hedlund is the lead heel, and it is fucking great. He's just as good, if not better, than Bacon. I actually wish they had given Garrett Hedlund more screen time. He's so electric in this role as this guy that runs this gang. He's bald. He's got the fire tattoos on his neck, the big trench coat. Love his performance. He does a great job. I really like Garrett Hedlund. John Goodman. John Goodman shows up in the movie in one of my favorite John Goodman roles as this guy. He's this drug/gun lord. He's the leader of all these guys. And spoiler, he's the father of Garrett Hedlund and the guy, that killed Bacon's son. His one-liners in this are fucking priceless. There's a point where Kevin Bacon goes to buy guns off him, and he goes, "This is about $3 fucking grand worth of killing. You got $3 grand worth of killing?" And Kevin Bacon just puts the money on the table and he goes, "There's 5. And Goodman goes, "Well, that makes you a preferred fucking customer." I love that. I love that line. Like the way he looks at him, like, all right. He goes, "There's something about you I like. I don't know. I'm going to give you something. It's whatever's pissed you off. This is bound to fix it." I love Goodman is so fun in this role. I wish he was in it more. I know if you watch the unrated cut of Death Sentence, he's got an extra scene or two, so it's always worth it to see for John Goodman alone. Really like him. And then, of course, this was the name I was trying to come up with before. Eddie Gathegi. Sorry, I forgot his name. He's a great character actor. He's still doing stuff. He's in the Superman movie as Mr. Terrific. He was on House. He was on... God, what else was Edie on? There's one other big show that he was on that I really liked, and I can't fucking think of the name of it. So, Edie, I'm sorry. Edie Gathegi, I've let you down tonight. I'm just blanking on his whole filmography, so I'm sorry. But really good actor. I really like him in the movie. He kind of plays the second in command, like the Robin to, or I guess, I don't know, the Harley Quinn to, Garrett Hedlund's Joker. I don't know. I like him a lot in the movie. He's good. I like the whole, "Man, we've been brothers since we was kids. We've been good as blood since we was kids. And that's what you've got to say to me." And then Garrett Hedlund, "Man, we're witless and we're scared shitless." That's all fun. I love all that stuff. The back and forth between those greasers guys is a lot of fun. Really good casts in both. You could really go either way with this. It's really tough. I'm going to lean towards Death Sentence, man. I would say Garrett Hedlund is better than anybody else in Death Wish other than Bronson. I would say John Goodman is better than anyone else in Death Wish than Charles Bronson. Like, both of them alone, I think, give good enough performances, really intense. And of course, I missed Aisha Taylor. Aisha Taylor is also in Death Sentence, and she's like the cop character, the Vincent Gardenia character. She's very much playing the same role where you got to do what's right thing. I don't know. I liked her a lot in the movie too, so I would lean towards Death Sentence. And then, of course, we're 4-2. Death Sentence takes a 4-2 lead. Holy shit. Things are getting interesting here. Is it going to pull over the upset as we get to music versus music? Of course, we have the legendary Herbie Hancock versus Charlie Clouser. This is the second slam dunk of this episode. We won't spend too long on this. I really like both their scores. I think they both do a great job. Charlie's is a little too soft for me. Like, you can hear a lot of the dun, 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 dun. It's too much like Saw in certain sequences. Like, you can, it almost feels like, bro, did you throw this out for Saw and just use it here? It's kind of like obvious. You could tell. And I like Charlie, and Charlie has good music in the movie. And the soundtrack, if you're going soundtrack, it's Death Sentence by a mile. I love so many of the songs. All Right is a great song in the movie. There's a lot of good songs in the movie, but I'm going with the classic Death Wish theme, Herbie Hancock. I think he did a really good job with that theme. It's fun. It's memorable. It's very of its time, the 1970s, if you will. For me, Music versus Music is a slam dunk for Death Wish. So Death Wish comes right back with a big left as it's 4-3. Yes, 4-3. And we have a comment here from Slasher Fred. Welcome, Slasher Fred. When you watch Death Wish, you realize it came during the time when the police were corrupted and had movies where protagonist becomes judge, jury, and executioner. Movies like Dirty Harry. Dude, absolutely. And I think it's a big reason, of course, Taxi Driver, which I did mention earlier. I think that's a big reason why it was so impactful at its time. And that's the thing we could discuss here too. And we know we could do. This is the first time ever on Grande's Graveyard. We can call it audible because I know we've talked exploitation versus exploitation. We initially had action versus action. We're going to call it on the fly audible here. Let's talk about this. Impact versus impact. Now, I know I've never done this before. This is off the cuff. I'm calling this in the ring. People might be upset, but hear me out. Impact versus impact. Now, of course, Death Wish came out, made a lot of fucking money, turned a lot of fucking heads, made Charles Bronson the biggest box office attraction draw in the United States of America when it comes to Hollywood pictures. He was number one. Just a few years later, he's only behind Redford. He's only behind Streisand. He's right there in the top four. I mean, he was like a huge deal before this, but after this was the big box office draw that you wanted to get in your movie. And they milked it. His whole second half of his career, I think it's before Death Wish and after Death Wish. That's how you kind of look at least how I look at Bronson's career. And you look at the movie itself, turned a lot of heads, made a lot of sequels that made a lot of money. It's very impactful. It is very effective in what it's doing. Death Sentence, on the other hand, it's the opposite. It's a movie that we were talking about before. Why didn't it make a lot of money? Why on a budget of $20 million did it fail to gross $17 million? There's big reasons for that, I think. Reason number one, the biggest of all the reasons that there are, is that it opened the same day. It opened August 31st, 2007. If you know your movies, you know there was one big major released film that day. And it was Rob Zombie's Halloween. Yes, I know. Big horror tie there. It opened the same day. And you know that when you're remaking a movie like Halloween, when you're remaking an immortal classic like John Carpenter's Halloween, that you have no fucking chance to compete with it at the weekend box office. I don't care what you are. I don't care. I don't care what superhero movie. I don't care what you are. I don't care. Especially at this time. Maybe now, maybe a fucking Avengers movie would kick its ass. But at this time, in the year 2007, I guarantee you there is now one other movie that came out that entire year that could have opened the same weekend as Halloween, the remake, that was going to make as much money as that. That was a huge deal at the time. The anticipation for that film was out the wazoo. And Death Sentence opens wide the same day in over 1,000 theaters, and it fails to gross 17 million worldwide in its run. It, because of this failure, fails to produce a Blu-ray in the United States. To this day, we don't have one. It's a sad thing because the movie, I think, is tremendous, but timing is everything. It's a good proven fact that timing is everything. However, you could also see this too. Look at certain movies that open on days of big summer blockbusters that, of course, got crushed. I always point back to Hocus Pocus. One of my favorite movies. I love Hocus Pocus. I get a lot of shit for it. I don't care. I love the movie. I think it's great. I've always loved this since I'm a little kid. Here's the thing. In 1993, when Hocus Pocus opened, nobody went to go fucking see it. You know why? Because it opened in the middle of July. It opened on the same day as a little movie that no one's ever heard of called Jurassic Park. Steven Spielberg, brother. And you're not going to compete with old Stevie Steves. You're just not going to compete with Big Stevie Cool in that department. There's no way. That's Steven. That's Spielberg. That's fucking Jurassic Park. It's one of the all-time biggest summer blockbuster movies that there's ever been. They've made 6 sequels to it. They just made a horrible sequel that made over $600 million worldwide, and everyone unanimously said that it sucked. Yet it still has legs because there will forever be milk in the cash cow or cash dinosaur, whatever you want to say. That's what happened, and Hocus Pocus, sadly, died at the weekend box office. Not enough people went to go see it. Now, why they decided to release it in the middle of July as opposed to October, I will never know. Why they decided, fuck you, Stevie, we'll take you on. We're Disney, baby. Buddy, whoever made that call, should have been given 3 to 5 years. I mean, that is a horrendous call. You probably cost yourself over $100 million. I would go to the extent of over $100 million. The real number is probably in the ballpark of like $30 to $50 million. They probably cost themselves over $100 million. I would go as far as to say that, because look what happened over time. Hocus Pocus all of a sudden became a cult classic. I was watching it on the Disney Channel, ABC Family. I rented the DVD to death as a kid. I loved the movie. It was a movie that over time garnered a big cult following because it had that big impact. It just released on the wrong week. It happens sometimes. Death Sentence is that type of movie in one way. In one way, it was released at the wrong time. You do not want to go head to head with a known horror IP remake. Whether people liked it or not, there's no denying that movie made a fuck ton of money, and they all knew it was going to make a fuck ton of money. But here's the difference. Hocus Pocus had legs. Hocus Pocus garnered a cult following over time. Death Sentence hasn't done that. I know of people that have seen Death Sentence generally really like it. Anyone I've spoken to, critics destroyed it at the time, there's no doubt. I think it has a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes. If that matters to you, it doesn't to me, because Rotten Tomatoes is the biggest crock of shit in the movie community. Website-wise, I do not care. I will die on that hill, stab me in the heart, and hope to die. I just think it's a shame that this movie hasn't had the impact that, other movies of its kind have. You look at, like I said, the following year, Taken. Taken was the shot in the arm that Liam Neeson needed at the time. It created a whole second half for his career, respectively. It was a $200+ million maker. The impact that movie has had is still seen to this day. He's going to be in the fucking Naked Gun remake tomorrow. That's still feeling the impact. Whereas with Kevin Bacon, it's not mentioned. This movie, it's like it never happened. So impact versus impact, man. We got a tie ball game here, as Death Wish easily takes the grand slam in the easiest category of the night here, as we called a little bit of an audible, because I already sort of dabbled into action versus action when we discussed that. But we'll get into the last topic here, as we're tied at 4. Let's see. Death Wish 3 has Alex Winters, right? That's Alex, fucking Bill and Ted fame. I saw Hocus Pocus in the theater as a kid. It's a classic. Screw the haters. I'm with you. Screw the haters. So many people in my life have told me, they're like, you like that baby shit? I'm like, dude, call me whatever you want. I always loved that movie. I don't like, and the thing is, people like Mick Garris and David Kirshner, like people from the horror world were involved. It's not like these fucking dildos at Disney who were like, okay, let's get people that have no fucking clue. Kenny Ortega was the director. You have Bette Midler in there. You have all the fun musical scores and the, kill the children of Salem before sunrise. Otherwise it's curtains. I love that movie, but whoever made the fucking decision, whoever in the fucking suits room said, all right, we're Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and we're going to go head to head with Sir Stevie. Buddy, that guy, holy shit, what a horrendously bad call. What a bad call, man. But it is what it is. It's good that Hocus Pocus gets its recognition now. Hoping for a summer blockbuster hit with a Halloween movie in July, it doesn't compute. Yeah, it doesn't compute at all. It was a bad idea then. No matter what it was going up, even if it was like, let's say it was going up against anything else, it's still, why do you drop that in July? Same thing with even the Halloween remake. It was a big hit, don't get me wrong. Why are you dropping that in August? Why? People want to see horror movies around October, and that was a big secret to Saw's success. Going back to somebody like Juan, those movies were out the last week of every October. If it's October, it's Saw. You know what? You know what time that the casual is most wanting to go see a horror movie in the fucking cinema? It's the week of fucking Halloween. And guess what? Every single year, those Saw movies came out the week of Halloween. That is a big reason as to why those movies all made about $100 million a pop. It's because of when it was released. It was because of the marketing, and it was because they kept that oiled machine running annually. It was all so well done. Whether you like those movies or not, you can't deny the money they made. They were very, very smart in what they did. They didn't decide to release it against fucking, I don't know, a Steven Spielberg movie in the middle of July. If they tried to release it in front of Catch Me If You Can in the 2000s, buddy, fucking doomed, You're not going to compete with Leo and fucking Hanks, but I digress. As we get to our final topic of the evening, ending versus ending. Yes, ending versus ending. This will be the decider. We're tied at 4. What is the better movie, Death Wish or Death Sentence? We're going to find out here tonight only on Grande's Graveyard. Here we go. Ending versus ending. Now, the Death Wish ending, of course, Charles Bronson, he's slowly but surely having the police come on to him. They know what he's up to. They know what he's been doing. But, of course, the crime rates are down, and they want to leave him on the streets to do what he's been doing. But eventually he does get wounded, and they do capture him, and someone makes a record that they know that he's the one that's been doing all these crimes or killing these people as a form of vigilantism. They bring him in, and of course, Vincent Gardenia, he corners him in the room in this hospital, and he says, listen, what you're doing is wrong, but we're going to have you remain anonymous, and we're going to transfer you over to Chicago where, you could just stay away now. Like, we've scared enough people off. The crime is going to stay down for now. Thank you for what you did. We're going to cover you for what you did, and that's it. And then, of course, Bronson, the next thing we see, he's getting off the plane in Chicago. He's getting the handshakes, the hot dogs, the whole 9 yards. And you see he watches this woman as she's getting picked on by these thugs or this, group of nasty people. And he watches them. He goes over. He ignores what the guy's saying to him. And he starts to pick up the stuff for the lady. And as he takes a knee down, they look at him like, ooh, look at the good guy. Look at the nice guy. And he just kind of very charmingly does the like, I'll kill you too. Like, this is not done. This is just getting started. You can move me from one city to another. You can move me from New York City to the second city, to the Windy City, if you will. This is just getting started. I love how that's done. I love the wink to you as you leave the screen. And it's a perfect ending and crescendo to what was to come. Because, again, they were very tongue-in-cheek from here on out with the Death Wish 2, 3, 4, etc. Each one got more crazy than the last. And they were very tongue-in-cheek, so why not give you a little wink as we leave the screen? Very cool. I like the ending a lot of Death Wish. And then we have the ending of Death Sentence here, where Bacon storms the hut, I guess, the building, the complex where all these gang members are, and he's basically just going full-on John Rambo, picking them off one by one, shooting these shotguns through holes and things like that, fighting these guys head on. Really good stuff. I love the action sequences, shooting guys on the stairwell, blowing guys' legs off, pulling guys' jaws out, like crazy over-the-top action and violence. They go a little too high with the CG, I will say. The CG, didn't have to do all that, but some of it's practical too, until we get to this little chapel, where we'll see Bacon and Headland sitting are here. And you notice the red color again, which I mentioned before. We get to him. Headland's at the top where like you have the altar and this upside down red cross, and they're shooting at each other. He shoots Headland's fingers off, and you turn around. There's Edie's character. They shoot each other. Bacon gets shot in the throat and shoots the guy's head off. And then they both sit down in this position where we see them here. Bacon's, of course, shaved his head by this point. He has this big scar, so he decides to shave his head, and he's got the whole gimmick and all that stuff. And Garrett Headland, he's bleeding there. He's missing his fingers. He smiles at Kevin Bacon, and he says, wow. He goes, look at you. You look like one of us. Look what I made you. As it's in that moment where Bacon has to realize and look in the mirror and go, oh my God, I'm not this sophisticated business guy anymore. I'm not the fun-loving family man that we were introduced to in these home videos at the beginning of the film, teaching his kids how to shoot a hockey puck, teaching his kids how to ride a bicycle, opening up presents, singing on the couch together when the ball drops on the 4th of July, singing Amazing Grace and all acquaintance be forgot. They're singing that. We've watched how this man has deteriorated from family man to gang killer. And he even laughs and smiles at him. He goes like, look at you. You're one of us now. I love how it's done. And Bacon just kind of looks over in regret. And it's like he knows that Headland's right. He knows that he's been turned into the very thing he seeked himself out to destroy. And he pulls out his gun and he just looks at Garrett and he goes, you ready? And Garrett kind of looks at him. He's like, I'm ready. And you get this off-screen kill, which, Grant, I don't generally like, but I thought it worked here. And we fast forward to Bacon. He's back home. He's bleeding very badly. Looks like he's not going to make it. Aisha Tyler rushes in with the police force, and she says, listen, I know your wife and son were shot. Your wife didn't make it, but it looks like your son is going to. And we watch as Kevin Bacon never even looks her way. Instead, he's watching the television and he's watching the home videos that we opened the film with. He's watching the four of him, right? It's him, his wife, his two sons on the couch singing together on the, of course, New Year's Eve. And he smiles. It's like he realizes that life was taken away from him. But not only was it taken away from him with one member, it's due to his actions. It's due to him trying to protect what was his that cost him everyone else on that couch, including himself. It's fantastic storytelling. As like I said, we go from full circle, right? 360 of success, everything. I'm alone back on the same couch with no one around me, and I'm bleeding to death. And yeah, my son might make it, but will I? We play this great music and we kind of fade to black. It's a very good ending. I love how it's done. It's full circle done right. And I think Juan hits the emotion of it perfectly. I love how we open and close on that couch. And in a lot of ways, this scene in the chapel is where he realizes it, like, fuck, man, I ruined my whole life. I didn't have to, but I did have to at the same time. There's the whole playing with that. I love that too. They're both really good endings. They're both tremendously done. But the winner here tonight is the underdog. The winner from 2007, directed by James Wan, starring Kevin Bacon. The winner is Death Sentence. Yes, Death Sentence gets the W here. The big upset, 5 votes to 4 on Grande's Graveyard, as this was a lot of fun here tonight. Of course, talking all things Death Wish versus Death Sentence. I love both these movies. Don't get me wrong. I think this is a category that most people are going to lean towards Death Wish, honestly, more so because they have seen it, whereas Death Sentence isn't as seen. I hope for whatever, purpose, even if one of you goes and watch Death Sentence, then I did my job. I did whatever I could to kind of sell you on that movie a lot too, because I think they're both great. Granted, IMDb has Death Wish at a 6.9. Death Sentence is at a 6.7. So IMDb has it very close. If you average them together at the same 6.8. would be the median there. So that's pretty darn close. I mean, it's 0.2 apart if you're looking at IMDb standards. And I think the Death Sentence, like I said, just deserves a little bit more love. I hope it gets a Blu-ray someday. I hope, Dead Silence got a Blu-ray. Hopefully Death Sentence does one day as well. It's a shame that it was obliterated by critics. It's a shame that nobody went to see it because of the day it was released, I think, more so than not. But I do think this is a really good picture with a lot of good emotion, performances, direction, use of color, style, and X, Y, and Z. I think this is a really good movie that more people should talk about. So Death Sentence for me is my winner here tonight on Grande's Graveyard. This was definitely a fun one for sure. I'm sure I probably upset some people. Let's see. Christopher is in the house. Christopher, welcome, my friend. Hope all is well with you, man. As we actually, I guess, are about at the end here. Unless anybody else has anything to weigh in on, if you have any more votes or comments or anything to say about Death Wish versus Death Sentence, I'm all ears. But I guess I could give you a brief sort of preview for the near future. I did post the August schedule. Like I said, though, I may have to switch some things around. It's not going to be topics. It's just dates that I have to switch around. So I'll post you guys. I'll let you guys know. So I got a big weekend coming up. I definitely am very excited. Tomorrow I'm meeting my favorite pro wrestler in the world. Io Sky is going to be doing a meet and greet tomorrow at noon, and I cannot wait for it. I'm so excited and nervous and everything, so I can't wait. That's going to be awesome. And then, of course, I'll be at SummerSlam this Sunday, so that'd be really cool. So fun weekend planned, and definitely have, some fun stuff planned for the show in the future. I just may have to switch up some of the scheduling. So we will see. I'll catch up with the beginning in the morning, but I love these Versus episodes. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I love doing these too. This was definitely a fun topic to cover here tonight on Grande's Graveyard. I definitely, this was one I would wanted to do for a long time, and I thought it was something I was like, you know what, this would be a fun one to do. Came too late, but happy to be here. Dude, happy to have you, man. Dude, thank you so much. Io Sky time. Yes, man. I'm so nervous, man. I'm so freaking nervous. I don't know what to do. I've never paid this much for a meet and greet. Oh God, my nervous level is at an all-time high, dude. I do not know what the hell I want to do. I hope the weekend goes well. Thank you, Chris. And, dude, I hope all went well with your situation. I felt terrible when I heard about it this morning. But, dude, I hope all that went well. And I hope that, obviously, tomorrow is not too bad of a day at work because hopefully Fridays are generally easy, but I don't, I don't have any wood near me, but knock on wood. Hopefully it's good and easy and a nice, easy, peaceful Friday. Io versus Grande. Never. I want to be Io's manager. She desperately needs a manager, so like hire my dumb ass, please. I will sell Io Sky. I'll cut promos for her. I don't give a shit. I would do it for free, but if you're good at something, never do it for free. Post pictures for the meet and greet. Dude, I plan on it. I'm just so scared I'm going to fuck up the picture somehow. It's a one shot. It's a one take. It's 15 seconds. You got to make sure you look your best. So I'm really nervous. It's a lot of pressure, but I'm also going to get an autograph. So I hope that she's as nice as people say. It would be a surreal moment for me because she's like the biggest reason why I got back into pro wrestling is Io Sky. Like I completely credit and thank her for making me realize I'm a fan of pro wrestling again. Because it was for a long time, I was so out of it with wrestling for years, probably 6-7 years. And then she came along, I watched her, and I was like, that's why I love this, man. Like, she made me realize it. So very excited to meet her. It's going to be a really surreal moment. I have to check out Death Sentence sometimes too. Verse episodes are great. Thank you. I appreciate that, John. I would love to hear your thoughts if you do end up watching Death Sentence. I know Ryan said he was thinking about renting it, so I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. It's a close one. It's totally close. I can see it going either way. My heart says Death Sentence, though. I like the movie a little bit better. Ginger Ninjas in the house. Howdy, y'all. Hope you all are doing well. Kicking some ass. Always taking names and kicking candy ass. Live in the color Grande's graveyard. Ginger all the way from Aussie, mate. Have a great time at SummerSlam. Thank you. New manager, Juan Grande. Oh my God, imagine I come out. That would be amazing. Tonight, we talk to you about the woman who can touch the clouds, the women's world champion. Well, former women's world champion now, Io Sky. The genius of the sky. Gotta love it. Nice, man. Have fun. Dude, I'm so excited. I heard it rained really bad, and the traffic into Jersey apparently is going to be terrible tomorrow, so go fucking figure. Please, you'd let Io pin you. I would let Io pin me. I would never fight Io Sky. What do you think I am? I have a soul, Miss C. Trish Stratus still number one. That's the last time I watched wrestling. Well, that's about 20 years ago. Granted, she just wrestled last month, but I know what you mean. Trish Stratus is definitely one of the hottest women of all time. Appreciate Io Sky more after WrestleMania Triple Threat and the Evolution main event. The Evolution main event was one of the, I think might be the greatest match in the history of wrestling. Like, it was every fucking thing I wanted to be. It had like every single emotion that you ever want to feel in a match like that. So I don't know. For me, that's why I love pro wrestling. It's to feel emotion, and they made me feel every single emotion that there is that night. Excitement, sadness, everything in between. Great stuff, man. Io Sky and Rhea Ripley is great too. Don't shortchange Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley is just, I think it's the fact that she's so over and she's so much like the female Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's almost like the underdog in me always gravitates to someone like an Io Sky that is like the 1A or the 1B, I just always loved her. Great episode only. Thank you so much. Flooded indeed. Yeah, we're going to figure that out, man. Maybe I should just take the train in. I don't know if that would be easier. I wanted to drive it. I figured that would be easier, but now with all this flooding news, I'm like, what the fuck do I do? So I don't know. I'm going to have to make an audible if I have to, but I'm going to get up at the crack of crack and we'll figure it out. I always pair Death Sentence with Law Abiding Citizen and The Brave One as the three great underrated revenge movies. Law Abiding Citizen is tremendous. I've never seen The Brave One. So Bradley, you always giving me ones to watch as well. So I do appreciate that. If all goes to plan, next week's going to be the Monster Mash special. I'm very excited for that. However, I don't know right now, so don't hold me to it. It might be the folk horror. If anything, it might be the folk horror special next week because we have things to change about the schedule. I don't know right now. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. Of course, Death Wish, Death Sentence. If you're catching the replay, comment down below. Let me know your score. Let me know which movie's better. Let me know why. If you think I'm an asshole for saying Death Sentence, let me know why. I want to hear it. Go, give me the heat, baby. Give me the heat. But everybody, I hope you have a safe, happy, healthy, wonderful weekend, and we will catch you next time only on the Graveyard. Too sweet, peace. Good night, everybody. Have a safe, wonderful weekend.